Hi, just checking out a Vox story here. The title: Places with more guns have more homicides. The relationship is real. Oh. Okay, let's see what they gotta say. Protestations of gun rights supporters aside, man. Public health researchers who study firearms generally agree that increased firearm ownership rates are associated with higher rates of homicide, man. Yeah, dude. A 2007 study by Harvard School of Public Health researchers showed the correlation after controlling for robbery rates. I have a sneaking suspicion that they used this crazy-looking chart here because I expect that way nobody will actually read it, especially liberals. Well, like, it's complicated. I'm not an expert. I need an expert to interpret that for me, and I'm just not smart enough to do it. So I'll just kind of take it on, on trust. I have no idea what this thing means. I don't give a fuck anyway. Oops, pardon my French, because it's immaterial to the argument I'm going to make anyway. Anyway, according to the Harvard School of Public Health Injury Control Research Center. Anyway, developed countries with more guns generally have more homicide, man. States within the U.S. with more guns have more homicide, dudes. People with access to guns, particularly babes, they're more likely to be victims of homicide than those without access. But how about we reverse the what would you call it? The subject verb object thing here. Let's go to developed countries with more homicide generally have more guns. That makes more sense to me. And states within the United States which have more homicide have more guns. Again, that makes more sense to me. People don't buy guns so they can shoot each other. People buy guns primarily to protect each other. Or protect themselves, their family members, and all the rest of it. Criminals, of course, buy guns to shoot each other. That's a different story. But for the most part, people, if they the plurality of the guns which are going to be found in an area are presumably going to be held by legally carrying people. In other words, people who are legally qualified to own, to possess weapons, guns. And they're not buying them to shoot other people, obviously. They're buying them to defend themselves. Ergo, it makes a lot more sense that if you already have a place which is dangerous, people buy guns in response to the danger. For example, when I was staying in Oakland about 20 years ago, I mean, the place was crazy dangerous, and if I was going to stay there permanently, I definitely would have bought a gun, right? It would not have been the case that because I bought a gun, I was more likely to go out and shoot somebody because I'm crazy or something. What would be more likely would be if I had the gun, I would be more likely to defend myself, and if somebody tried to rob me, I would use that gun and blow their freaking brains out. The next sentence is a bit weirder, though. It's kind of difficult to parse. People with access to guns, particularly chicks, they're more likely to be victims of homicide than those without access, man. Again, though, another way to look at this, basically, is people with access to guns. In other words, in dangerous places where people buy guns, in such areas, women are more likely to be victims of homicide. Well, of course they are, because women probably carry hot weapons with less frequency than men do, so they're less likely to be able to defend themselves. Not to mention the fact that if you're in a dangerous area, women are more likely to be preyed upon than men. I guess. The reason I'm using this amateur approach to try to figure this out is because I've actually lived in dangerous places, and of course women are going to be preyed upon. They're going to be more likely to be mugged because they're going to, criminals always want a soft target. In one instance, I was with a friend's wife, and I mentioned this in another video, and some guy came over to mug us. It was a night, and so I grabbed her by the arm and kind of strongly kind of jerked her into the middle of the street and stared straight at the guy. So, meaning if you're going to fucking rob me, you can do it right here in the middle of the street underneath the lights, the sodium lamps, pal. Let's see if you got the fucking balls to do it. And he didn't, which is what I expected. But of course, if my friend's wife had been walking alone, she'd have got mugged, right? And if she put the guy he could have done what he wanted to. I mean, he could have mugged her, he could have molested her, and if she put up a fight and he got mad, he could have killed her. That was a place where you have a lot more access to guns and had absolutely nothing to do with guns. Just had to do with the fact that dangerous people prey and are you're talking about a place which is full of dangerous people. They're going to kill people, and women are much more likely to be killed in a violent altercation in a place like that. Anyway, Fox covers its ass by saying, "It's important to note, man, that all these studies show an association rather than a causation. It could be that areas with more guns are more prone to murder for other reasons. You think? But the fact, man, that the finding holds up no matter how you approach it is suggestive. Yeah, suggestive of whatever bias you have, whether it's my bias or your bias. And most experts think that the relationship is at least partially causal, which really means next to nothing, because how much? What's partially mean? 5%, 10%, 95%, 90%? And so they quote a lefty. David Hemingway, the Harvard Injury Control Research Center's director. I mean, everybody's at Harvard's lefty, I presume. Within the United States, a wide array of empirical evidence indicates that more guns in a community leads to more homicide. Thanks. But actually, here we have a different statistic. U.S. gun deaths continued to climb in 2017. The United States saw nearly 40,000 firearm fatalities last year, an uptick driven largely by an increase in suicides, not homicide, but suicides. So easier access to guns means you decide to blast your brains out instead of trying to hang yourself from a tree. Or in Taiwan, they used to drink, was it acid? It was some kind of pesticide. Ugh. It's a really painful way to die. Using a gun is much more efficient. When I was thinking about suicide way back, when I was, college, I hated college, Jesus. I thought of heroin. It was just you take a hot dose. Anyway, apparently there's a lot more firearm suicides lately. So within the United States, the more guns in the community leads to more homicide. Yeah, really what leads to is more suicides. It's the overwhelming majority of deaths, as you can see. Something like a rough, back of the napkin calculation, about 58% of all firearm deaths are suicides. Anyway, all right, I'll leave it at this. Thank you, Vox, for giving me some more baloney to stimulate a video. And anyway, I'll catch up with you guys later. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye. Oh yeah, I forgot another chart. This is from the Centers for Disease Control out of Atlanta, I presume, the Congressional Research Service, which shows that the more private guns per person goes up, the lower the number of gun-related homicides per 100K. Kaboom. So again, while places with more guns have more homicides, or better put, places with homicides have more guns, the fact of the matter is the more guns people have, the less homicides there are per person. Sorry, Vox, you suck again. So I'm chasing down the source of this particular graph that I used, and look what I find over here. Early morning home break-in ends in shooting. And guess what? Officials said that a suspect identified as Alan Turner attempted to enter the home at blah, 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 blah. After Turner gained entry, this is at 4 o'clock in the morning, he was shot by the homeowner. So the burglar gets shot by the homeowner. Turner was taken to a local hospital by ambulance and was described as being in a stable condition. Now, if he'd been shot and killed, that would have been a quote-unquote homicide. It would have been an excellent example of a person owning a weapon, living in a dangerous neighborhood, being prepared. Some bozo comes in to do what? To rob, to rape, to kill. You have no idea what's going to happen. Instead, they protect themselves and blast this person. Anyway, here's the rundown here.
At 2516 Southwest Bradbury, earlier this morning, there was one person taken to the hospital. Reports are that person was shot. We don't know the condition of the person. Police are still on the scene. This happened sometime during the 4 o'clock hour this morning. Again, the police are still here and the area is still taped off. That's all the details we have right now.
And there you have it. Exactly why you should have a gun if you live in a dangerous area. Be prepared for homicide. In other words, you blasting the bad guy into oblivion. Cheers.